Congratulations to the Melbourne International Film Festival on turning 50 today. It now gives me enormous pleasure to declare open the 50th Melbourne International Film Festival. Thank you.
It's incredibly important to Melburnians, there's no doubt about it.
I mean, it's great for Melbourne.
It's fantastic. It's great that it's got to 50 years.
It's now the largest film festival in Australia, with a staggering 140,000 people who attended last year's film festival. That's an outstanding outcome for this event.
When you realise the volume of people that come to this festival and the sort of support, the sort of commitment that people here have and have had over the course of the years is quite extraordinary.
It's really become such a central part of film in Melbourne.
It just allows you to look beyond Australia, and it allows you to look beyond your own narrow window.
I guess seeing films from other places certainly were very important to me. When I saw the La Maurice picture, a picture called Cran Blanc, which opened the Melbourne Film Festival, I think in '55, I remember thinking, why the hell can't we make a picture like that?
And it's 50 years since the first Melbourne Film Festival was held in Olinda in 1952. Congratulations on turning 50.
We started from scratch and we didn't really know what we were letting ourselves in for.
Well, here we are at the quite exciting first night of the Olinda Film Festival, which will last 3.5 days and is actually the first Australian-wide film festival of its kind ever held.
Well, we spent an absolutely marvellous weekend at Olinda, very inspiring.
And it was a very friendly occasion, lovely.
We felt that we had the resources to go and do it ourselves, and we did.
I think this must be a great night for the honorary organisers. Over in the corner I can see Frank Nichols, President of the organising committee, talking with Mr Shefferley and Mr Bailin, both hard-working voluntary members of the committee.
We were very lucky that the team that we assembled was an extremely active one, and before we knew what we were doing, we decided that it'd be a good idea not to just have a convention of film buffs, but to get together a bunch of films, as many as we could, and show them.
They wanted to run a film festival because they wanted to see films that they would like. They got very tired of the censorship and being treated, they felt, like children.
I mean, people don't realise now that in those days, if you didn't want to watch Hollywood film, you didn't watch anything.
There are two first nights, one here at Sassafras Hall and the other at Olinda, simply because there's no hall large enough in the district to take the expected audience of about 600 film enthusiasts from every part of Australia.
There was a whole group of us came from Sydney University. We had Sydney University Film Group, very strong film society in those days.
I can remember persuading Arthur Boyd and Yvonne to come up. I had kids and they had kids, and we all went up in their old 1929 Dodge.
But the crowd itself is quite different. Just across from me is a group of girls in slacks, a young fellow in shorts and open-necked shirt. There's an elderly silver-haired woman looking as though she's off to the opera, a businessman in black suit and white shirt, plenty of sports clothes. And altogether, it's a very representative crowd with one thing in common, interest in films.
You know, movies were pretty big in the early 50s for young people. So, you know, I heard about this thing that was going on, so we made a group and went.
Olinda was a tourist destination in the Dandenongs, not awfully far from Melbourne, and there was lots of accommodation, we thought, there. We, at that stage, had in mind that maybe we'd have about 100 people, and we scurried round and put reservations on guest houses. In the end, we had about nearly 800. It was a bit overwhelming.
The accommodation was very tight.
We sneaked into the school and we got flags out of cupboards and spread them on the floor and tried to make ourselves comfortable.
Nearly 400 of these people are residents. You can't get a bed for love or money in the district, but the other 200 have travelled up from Melbourne about 25 miles away.
There was no accommodation, and so anyway we eventually were accommodated in a church hall,
not a very comfortable way of spending the evening.
An air of excitement and well-known film critics and writers, as well as newspapermen and photographers.
But it was an inspiring sort of a situation with so many people there.
There were just people everywhere. It was wonderful.
One of the problems that we encountered, we didn't quite really realise what was happening. Because we had so many people, we attracted the attention of ASIO. It happened that one of our members, a very active member, was the Realist Film Society, and it had an extremely dynamic director, Ken Collicott. However, in the event, I think ASIO must have been pretty disappointed.
You didn't have to be a raging communist. You just wanted to make sure that what had happened in the war years wasn't going to happen again.
People worked like beavers.
The army provided telephones and things. We had the State Film Centre. We had a real rally round.
It slotted into place.
People were running up and down the road and they were grabbing meals around the place as they ran from one venue to another. And there was all that buzz, buzz, buzz.
I remember Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast is the one that I remember clearly. I still remember it.
The main feature tonight is John Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast, as well as shorts which will include another French film, this one though, dated 1905 and in Technicolor.
We had sort of films that we managed to scour the earth for. We were able to get them from practically, I think in all we had them for 40 or 50 countries, and they covered a tremendous range of activities.
Some of those films, in actual fact, were in customs bond, such as Beauty and the Beast. It didn't come in from overseas. It was already here, sitting, waiting to be used. We got them out with permission of the Customs Department for one screening at the festival.
But poor Frank Nichols never got to really see a whole film, because it was his job to run the reels of film from one hall to the other.
Well, I had a crazy business. We showed La Belle à la Bête at Olinda and Sassafras, and I moved the film between every reel, backwards and forwards, up and down that road at night. It wasn't exactly a pleasant occupation.
There were 3 or 4 places going simultaneously. It was a feast.
And people were turning up in a fairly sad and sorry state after a day of undiluted film viewing.
Quite incredible what happened on the technical side. It was amazing.
If the Film Centre didn't provide the technical services of building bar boxes and then setting up the 4 or 5 ancillary screening locations with 16mm projectors, we wouldn't have been able to do that sort of programming.
It was a great opportunity to see films that we never would have seen otherwise.
Australia was one of the most screen-mad countries in the world. They had one cinema seat for every 7 of the population, but all of them were dominated by Hollywood and by the block booking system.
If you weren't in a film society, you missed what was happening in Europe, what was happening in Asia.
But I remember there being an O'Flaherty film, which was, I think, something about Louisiana Story.
The Robert Flaherty film, which was already legendary by 1952, and we were able to see Louisiana Story.
I do remember sort of seeing some of those shorts, those short films, lying on a blanket, you know, outdoors, and really thinking they were quite boring.
I had a deep hatred of documentary, if you want the truth, and I hated the fact that in Australia all we were doing in those days was docos.
A very unfortunate situation for Australian filmmaking too, because Australia had quite a proud record of making films, and then this was actually turned off by the block booking system.
One of the films which won a special award for a documentary feature was Mike and Stephanie, made for the Department of Immigration.
Mike was a prisoner. Moshe. Duck. how can the people escape from war?
There was a big open-air screening. I remember it to this day. A huge screen was put out in the forest somewhere. It was the winners of the Commonwealth Film Competition.
The General Manager of the ABC, Mr Charles Moses, introduced the Honourable W.S. Kent Hughes, Minister for Works and for the Interior, who made the presentations.
The Prime Minister himself asked me to convey to you his very warm greetings and congratulations to the organisers on the marvellous success of what a lot of people thought might be a very big flop.
We wouldn't have gone on with the festivals, I think, if it had been a flop. We actually more than broke even. I thought it was a great success because it not only did what it set out to do, it did a lot more.
I think the organisers have done a marvellous job, and I hope that this festival is merely the forerunner of many future successful festivals of this nature.
It really showed up the need there was for this sort of function.
From my point of view, the really great thing about it was being able to get together with such a variety of people who were really keen on film.
I couldn't compare it to another, basic activity, but it's nice to do it with someone else rather than doing it by yourself.
It was a great adventure.
Oh yes, I remember it very well.
Crowds are racing for buses, but quite a number of people are standing around carrying out what was probably the main idea behind the festival, talking about films. Let's hope they keep on talking and translating that talk into action for the benefit of the film industry in Australia.
Getting to know more about the festival and its trajectory over 5 decades, the personalities and films that have enlivened and contributed to its growth and success, has underlined the sense of spirit that the festival has in this city.
Other festivals have prizes because they're for films that are produced in the country, whereas the Melbourne Film Festival is really a festival of festivals.
It was recognised by FIEP as one of the international festivals, so it is important.
I think the film festival has done great things for Australian film.
I think it helps us all feel more confident about the future.
It does help make people more aware of what's going on in cinema and the force that cinema can have.
I certainly enjoy that, looking in the program and knowing this is my one opportunity to see some extraordinary, daring and interesting filmmaking.
It inspired people all over the place.
And now it's just booming and everyone seems absolutely delighted, and it's become a really important part of debate and viewing and gathering.
I mean, people like myself are very grateful to the people who put the hard work in the early days, organising things like the first festivals here.
And clearly, at the end of that, we could say that the Melbourne Film Festival was a goer. Well, it was, and it's still going, but I think you will agree that there were never quite one like Olinda.